Greetings YouTube and welcome to a Pokemon video. As you can tell, we're going to be doing a deck profile and it's going to be on Zekrom Eels because this deck is fun as hell and I've been playing around with it ever since I saw the list that won Netherlands Nationals by Anna Schipper, so shout out to her. This is her build. I haven't really changed anything with it since the list first popped up because I just haven't really found anything that I would want to change out. It's a very well-rounded, solid build, and it just shows the love and care of someone who's been a long-time Eels player. That's what she said. She's always enjoyed playing Eel decks, and this deck is actually pretty potent right now in the format. It's a shame that we're going to be losing it to rotation, and yeah, its matchup against Plasma is actually pretty decent. The deck's been geared towards the Plasma and Darkrai matchup, whereas it kind of has problems in the Gothitelle Excelgor, but nobody plays Gothitelle Excelgor in my area. If there are any meta decks played here, it's Blastoise, it's Plasma. Actually, not really. There's only two people that play Plasma. One of them is myself. And then there's just other random stuff that this deck is just simply good against. So yeah, this has just been a fun deck for me to play. I'll go over the list and I'll go over some of the reasons why some cards are in here and some of the things I like about it, etc, etc, etc. So the list itself consists for the Pokemon 3 Zekrom, 4 Dynamo, 3 Electric, 2 Puvalant, 1 Mr. Mime, 1 Zekrom EX, 1 Keldeo EX for the trainers, Professor N, Colress, Skyla, 4 Laser, 4 Catcher, 4 Ultra Ball, 2 Level Ball, 2 Floatstone, 2 Verbank, 1 Switch, Super Rod, 1 Dowsing Machine, 4 Double Colorless Energy, and the rest are Lightning. So, pretty simple deck list in itself. Now, as for the nuances of this deck, and just some of the really neat things about it, well, this deck is all about magic numbers. And what I mean by this is, certain Pokemon have certain HP numbers that through the use of certain cards in your deck, you can take out in one turn. For example, Zekrom EX's not Zekrom EX, we'll get to him in a bit. Zekrom himself does 120 damage for 2 Lightning and a Colorless. Now 120 isn't enough to flat out kill the best Pokemon in the format right now. Well, there is Absol, which is good because that's one of the attackers in the Darkrai matchup. Being able to knock out an Absol is good. And Absol is now being played as a 1 of, maybe even a 2 of in Plasma decks. But the 120 damage won't be enough to kill, say, Kyurem. However, when you add in Hypnotoxic Laser, the 120 damage becomes 130 damage, and now that Kyurem that you would have to take 2 turns to kill is now toast in one shot. If you throw in Verbank City Gym, that 120 damage now becomes 150 damage because you're doing 30 more damage to poison. 150, that's enough to kill Blastoise in one shot. And if you knock out Blastoises really quickly, the Blastoise Keldeo deck starts to have problems keeping its energy acceleration going. In addition to this, you've got Puvalant, who's there for the EX attackers. Darkrai, Keldeo, Thundurus, Deoxys. For 3 energy, you do 120 damage to them, and none of those 3, well, actually, Keldeo EX, if you pump enough energy behind them, can kill this guy in one shot. But Thundurus EX and Darkrai EX, they can't one-hit kill Puvalant, not without massive pumping. The fact that Bufalant's Boofer ability takes 20 less damage from all attacks means that 2 of those Deoxys EX are not doing anything. They have to have 4 Deoxys EX on the bench in order to do decent damage to Bufalant, or in Kyurem's case, he has to burn a Blizzard Burn, which then sets him up for an easy revenge KO from the effect from Zekrom or Zekrom EX. So that's pretty good. And the fact is, you got these high damage attackers that only give up 1 prize when they get knocked out, as opposed to you taking 2 prizes for knocking out their EXs and such forth, means that ultimately you'll win the prize war because you'll take 3-4 turns at most to get all your 6 prizes, whereas they have to take 6 turns, maybe even less than that if they manage to capture in your 2 EXs. But otherwise, it's a very good grinding deck. And once you start getting your electric set up, like, you have very consistent form of energy acceleration. And helping this out is Mr. Mime. His bench barrier prevents your benched Pokemon from being damaged by attacks, so Landorus's Hammerhead, Kyurem's Frost Spear, just splash damage attacks, you don't have to worry about them with Mr. Mime in play, and he also forces your opponent to have catchers in order to get it out of there, just so they can knock it out and start doing splash damage. And that's a waste of 2 cards, if that. So, Mr. Mime, very, very good card. I would run this in any deck that likes to use Stage 2 stuff, like Gardevoir, Gallade, Charizard, like, even just fun decks that like to do those kind of things. Run at least 1 copy of Mr. Mime. The fact that he's searchable through levables is amazing. His Cybolt, you're not going to be using it. You have no means of doing it, but more or less though, you want to get a bench setup of 2 electrics, one of your big attackers, Mr. Mime, and a Keldeo EX, and such forth. Now, as far as Keldeo goes, you're not really using him for offensive purposes. You're using him as a pivot, because him combined with Floatstone means you can get any Pokemon you have in play out, and then any Pokemon you have in the bench out to play scot-free. The idea is, Floatstone will make Keldeo's retreat cost nothing. So you can retreat him for free. And you have his Russian ability, which lets you put him in place of the active Pokemon. So, suppose my Zekrom got hit by Hypnotoxic Laser and he's asleep, and I flipped for turn, he did not wake up. Well, now I can rush him in with Keldeo, then I can retreat him back out to the active position through Floatstones. Wonderful. And there is those times where you may be able to set him up as an attacker, but not really. The other last Pokemon is Zekrom EX. You don't really use him very often for the mid to late game, really, but he's there because Strong Volt in combination with Burbank City Gym's poison damage is a clean knockout on any EX in the Pokemon in the format, because that's 180 damage. You're doing 150 for 2 lightning and 2 colorless. The 2 lightning you discard, but then you can get him back on this guy with electric, and then you can just retreat him into the active position with Keldeo. So there's your kind of mini loop in itself. It's a lot like Rayquaza EX, to be perfectly honest. And Splinting Claw can do potentially 80 damage for a lightning and a double colorless energy. So that's something to consider. But otherwise, you don't really want to drop him early game, because he'll just get captured up, or they'll just kill him off early for an easy 2 prizes, and you lose your one really good answer, like quick answer, to some big things. Because as good as Bouffalon is, he'll take 2 turns to KO an EX. Zekrom EX with good setup can just kill him off in 1 turn. As for everything else, Professor N, you've got your staple 8, 3 Colress, because this deck has a huge reliance on having a certain bench setup, so you're going to have 4 or maybe 5 Pokemon on your bench at a given time, so that's an easy 5 cards for Colress, not barring any cards they have on their side of the field. Everything else, self-explanatory. I guess the A-Spec deserves some explanation, as more or less you'll see Computer Search as the go-to choice. The idea behind Dowsing Machine is it lets you get back things like a laser, like an Ultra Ball, like a trainer. It allows your 1-ofs to become 2-ofs, your 2-ofs to become 3-ofs, and while it's awful in the early game, it's great at any time after turn 3 even. Just being able to recycle things like that 1 Super 1, that 1 switch, or you want to get to a 5th Pokemon catcher, now you can. Energy is just basically that. It's a very small energy lineup. Normally you'd see like 10, but this is a decent number. And that's kind of it for the deck itself. It's pretty straightforward. Then again, that's what Zekrom Eels has always been. It's just load up the Zekrom and just start swinging. It's just a really good deck, and it always has been. This is also probably a pretty decent budget deck. It's just, unfortunately, it's dead after the rotation. I mean, we're losing these guys. That in itself just kind of kills some of the firepower the deck has, and without electric, you just can't really get this guy going anymore. Oh well, it's been a good couple of years for Zekrom, and all I can say is you will be missed, good friend. Until next time, people, this is Obelisk TGS, jacking out.